The Dallas Cowboys lose last night on Thursday Night Football in a must-win game as the big game Cowboys show up again. That defeat for Dallas, huge for the Eagles' chances of winning the NFC East, and we're talking about all of that on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. How about them Cowboys? And here we go. We're off and running on a Friday. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. It was certainly intentional that I wore my Super Bowl 59 hat talking about that Cowboys loss last night because over the last 3 decades, they know nothing about this, and the Eagles do. Cowboys lose last night, 44-30 at the hands of the Detroit Lions at Ford Field in Detroit. And this was a game where the Cowboys defense reverted back to that defense that we had seen for much of the year. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. I thought Brian Schottenheimer at times coached scared on offense. Dallas' special teams not good. And of course, their defense not good either. Dallas also lost the turnover battle 3-0. It can't happen in a game of this magnitude. And so casual Cowboys fans will say, well, Dak, 31 of 47, 376 yards. Yeah, touchdown and 2 picks and a loss. CeeDee Lamb was balling in that game, and he missed the back half of it because he went into concussion protocol. He still had 6 catches for 121 yards. Ryan Flournoy, 9 catches for $115 and a touchdown. He stepped up because George Pickens gave up on his team last night. And then really the story for the Lions last night, Detroit Stars starred in this game. Jared Goff, 25 of 34, very decisive all night, 309 yards and a touchdown through the air. Jahmyr Gibbs, 12 carries, 43 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns rushing in addition to 7 catches and 77 yards. He's one of the most exhilarating players in the NFL right now. And then Jamison Williams, the speedster, 7 catches for 96 yards. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown somehow playing on that bad ankle. You had David Montgomery running it in from about 35 yards out. The pillars of the Lions showed up, and they delivered a huge win to lift the Lions to 8-5, and that in the process keeps their playoff hopes alive. And this was the classic big game Cowboys. They had been playing great. They were the hottest team in the NFC, especially with the Rams losing as 10-point favorites last week against Carolina. Their defense was coming along. Their offense, electric. But in a must-win game to really keep their playoff hopes beating as far as their heartbeat, they lose, and they lose by giving up 44 points. So why did the Cowboys lose this game? I think the big story is that defense could not get a stop. It didn't help matters that the Cowboys lost the turnover battle 3-0. Now, Detroit was penalized a lot, but they didn't turn the football over once. Dallas also gave up a lot of explosive plays in the pass game. They gave up 8.5 yards per pass. That secondary not good, and they got flagged on a couple of big occasions. Dallas also gave up 5 yards per carry to the Lions' rushing attack, and Detroit Stars balled out. On defense, I really like the pressure that the Lions were able to get and generate, led by Aidan Hutchinson. He just got paid recently. He's come off that bad leg break from last year, which he suffered on the road against the Cowboys, and he gets back at Dallas with a season-high 10 pressures, 7 of which came in the fourth quarter in closing time. And how about this for Hutchinson, special player here, 39 fourth-quarter pressures this year, 10 more than any other player in the NFL. And look at his usage here. His pressure rate and percentage, 20.4%, and he was lining up all over the field for that Lions defense. A big story in the aftermath of this game, which was simmering and developing during it, George Pickens. When he's right, he's exceptional. But a big reason why the Steelers got rid of him, what we saw last night, the character concerns, how he seemingly gave up on his team and the effort wasn't there. How in a game of that magnitude do you look disinterested? And so Richard Sherman absolutely shredded him after the game, saying, look, this year you've played like one of the top wide receivers in football. And when you're going right, you look extremely dominant. But then you have games like you had last night against Detroit where he looked disinterested in playing football. 9 targets, 5 catches, 37 yards. And with CeeDee Lamb out, there was a route or two where he gave up. One of the Dak picks, the ball went off his hands. Late in the game on a long ball, he just gave up on it. He came up short. Really mystifying performance from George Pickens. And why, in the grand scheme of things, this is absolutely huge for the Philadelphia Eagles. You think about everything that has transpired over the last few weeks, right? Cowboys had won 3 in a row going into last night. The Eagles had lost 2 games in a row. The Cowboys were rolling. Eagles falling apart at the seams. And if Dallas won this game, that would put so much pressure on the Eagles on Monday Night Football against the Chargers on the road without Jalen Carter. And if the Eagles had lost that game, if they do lose this game, it's still interesting. But if Dallas won and the Eagles lost on Monday, Dallas would have a real shot to win the NFC East, which going into the deadline, nobody thought was possible when the Cowboys were 3-5-1 on the year and Philadelphia had started the season 8-2. And now with this loss, the Cowboys' playoff hopes damaged. And obviously, this is still a big game for the Eagles on Monday. They're going to be rocking the all-white jerseys. The last time they did that at SoFi Stadium when Saquon ran wild in LA against the Rams. Hopefully that gets the mojo going. Hopefully this offense can get on track. Hopefully this defense can play well with the absence of Jalen Carter hurting them. But going back to point number 4 here, if the Cowboys had won last night, they would have had a 39% chance to win, to make it into the playoffs, With a loss to Detroit, those playoff hopes have gone down from 39% with a win over the Lions down to 9%. Huge swing. And then directly, how that impacts the Eagles, Philadelphia now, with that Dallas loss on Thursday night, has a 95% chance to win the NFC East, looking to end this very weird 2-decade stretch in which no team has repeated as a division winner in the NFC East since 2004. And so now the Eagles' lead in this division is 2 games with 5 left, and all they really have to do to end the year is go 3-2, and it's a wrap. They're at least going to host a playoff game. Now, despite Dallas losing last night, myself, all of you, Philadelphians everywhere, Eagles fans everywhere, we're still unhappy, especially with this Eagles offense. Because in Philadelphia, we're kind of always unhappy. We're always trying to strive for greatness. And so we launched some shirts. We have a merch store now. Get yours today. I'm always unhappy in Philadelphia. A spin off the show, of course. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. You got the Eagles Now logo there with the text on top. New shirts available right now. That link is the pinned comment for today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I think this is perfect. We can all have fun. We can all joke around about being unhappy because we wear that like a badge of honor, and you can support the show as well. So you look at the NFC East standings right now going into Monday night for the Birds. The Cowboys 6-6-1 on the year. If the Eagles win, they move to 9-5. Cowboys are 3 games back in the win column with 4 games remaining in the season. Commanders 3-9, Giants 2-11. But you see here why that loss was so damaging for Dallas. The Eagles' remaining schedule on the road against the Chargers on Monday night, home against the Raiders. So you beat LA, you beat the Raiders. You're feeling really good about yourselves with 3 games left. On the road against the Commanders, on the road against the Bills, but then at home against the Commanders at Lincoln Financial Field. The Cowboys' remaining schedule, of course, a fewer game because they played last night. They get the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. They get the Chargers at home as well. But then they go on the road the final 2 weeks of the year at the Commanders on Christmas, at the Giants in Week 18. And obviously anything can happen in these divisional games. Based on winning percentage alone, the Eagles in the NFL have the 4th easiest schedule remaining. So Philadelphia right now is very well positioned after a gauntlet of a schedule up until this point. But the job is not finished. The job is not finished for the Philadelphia Eagles. Even though the Dallas Cowboys lost on Thursday Night Football and their playoff hopes have dropped from 39% to 9%, and the Eagles now have a 95% chance to win the NFC East, and I think they repeat as divisional winners for the first time since 2004. All of this does not matter if this Eagles team doesn't improve. And if this offense lays an egg on Monday Night Football, the same concerns that we had going into that Thursday game will still be alive and felt. This offense has to get back on track. And really, it's everybody. And this defense has to improve. And Philadelphia here can't just lean on this Cowboys loss. They have to take care of business, because when they're playing their best football in a wide-open NFL, wide-open NFC, I don't think there's a team that can beat them. But they have to get better. And this Dallas loss, I will say this, does take a lot of pressure off of Philadelphia here. If Dallas had won, Eagles lose, we're looking at another historic choke job here. But now Philadelphia has some more breathing room, and this team that's been a little bit tight of late, they can relax a little bit. Don't forget to give me a follow on all of my social media platforms. I'm on X, Instagram, TikTok, and I actually just surpassed 1,000 followers on TikTok, so give me a shout over there as well.